Hi, this is your host Ahmed, and welcome to new episode at Mindset Mastery. And we have an amazing guest today, Tara. How are you, Tara?
I'm doing really good.
I'm so happy that you are with me today on my episode and my podcast. And today, I would love to start like this new half of the year with an amazing start, how we could make the upcoming 6 months the best 6 months in our life and make a practical shift in our life and do not just be stuck in whatever we are doing with our results. So how could we
Yeah,
talk about
that is a really good topic and intention because I think that most people feel like it's going to take a long time or it's going to be hard or it's never going to happen. And I can tell you that anything is possible when you're working with the laws of the mind.
that?
And I
Mhm.
would say that that would be my number one suggestion or action step to take would be to create more order within, because order is heaven's first law. When there's order within, there's going to be order on the outside. And some of the ways that you create order is, well, first of all, you got to get clear on, well, what do you want in the next 6 months? Like what would you love to create? This is where we use our higher mental faculty of imagination. And I think it's quite fascinating, when you start to study and understand the mind, Ahmed, like, and you know this, that the subconscious mind does not know the difference between something that's real and something that's imagined.
But,
And the
but
problem,
that's something that unfortunately they are using against themselves is through they are attached with the results that whatever they are seeing around them, the environment, the conditions, they thought that's it, that we
yeah.
couldn't do more than that. And that's what, how could we tell them that everything is within, everything can be changed?
Yeah, I think the only way for someone to really understand that, because we're all genetically and environmentally programmed. We all have this programming we call the paradigm, as you know, if
Mhm.
you've been jumping on Ahmed's podcast. Um, and it's nasty. I mean, we call it the devil. So the only way is you got to get the understanding. You've got to get the education. You start studying yourself, start studying your mind. And when you understand that you can truly be, do, and have anything you desire. And your present results is just a reflection of the way that you've been, programmed. Like literally, we're hypnotized, and that you can dehypnotize or unschool yourself, and you can hypnotize yourself for success. But it's like, Neville Goddard would say that one of my favorite chapters in Neville Goddard is the coin of heaven. Well, inner thinking makes the outer a fact, right? So for everything's created twice. At first is created in thought, right? Or within, and
Mhm.
then it shows up in form or on the outside. So, you know, Bob Proctor, he'd always say, you don't know what you don't know. I think that it's so important. First of all, if you do want to, quantum leap your results and start moving towards the results that you want, you got to recognize and be honest with yourself that your results are just a reflection and that you don't need to let them dictate your life or, your future results, and that you can use that as a way to say, yeah, maybe there's something I'm missing here, and to start studying yourself, to start studying the laws, to start studying the mind. Because I think that that's really important. I think most people are, like you said, they're focused on what they don't want. Whatever we focus on, it grows. It's a law,
100%.
right? We don't want to focus on what we don't want. It's just interesting because even for friends and students and others that study this material, I think it's so important just to surround yourself around people that do know how to think. And that's why, coaching and mentorship is so important. I just jumped off a mastermind. It was incredible. But still, those leaders are studying themselves and they are, thinking into results. They're studying lead the field. They're doing all sorts of incredible things, or, you know, but
That's that's what
we still catch ourselves. Like I
yeah,
still catch them,
that's
right?
what
Still think things they don't want.
yeah, that's what our mentor Bob Proctor, the ledger, he said that we always study ourselves. We always going deeper and understand ourselves. And the much we know and understand ourselves, the more we are shocked with the results that we could do, the capabilities, the infinite within us. So, and I could tell to our audience that even the first 6 months, maybe you did some wins. So just be grateful for them. Just don't ignore it. And just try to look for all the things that you could make it in a better way, in a certain way. And don't ignore the wins that you did. Just start from
I
something.
think that's another great step here. Like you've
Mhm,
asked for actionable steps. Okay. So you got to create order within. When there's order within, there's order on the outside.
mhm,
By the way, the opposite of order is chaos, drama, and confusion. Walk away fast, create the order within, right? I would say, second step, you got to get really crystal clear on what it is you do want. And, and start, focusing on what it is you do want and get really clear, even put a pen to paper, start writing out all the details of what you want the next 6 months to look like. I mean, you could write even a future letter to yourself, in 6 months, date it. What would you wanted to accomplish? What are some of
mhm,
those big goals? Who is there to support you on the way? And then I'd say the third step that you just brought up would be gratitude, because you got to shift your mindset. Again, most of us, I think almost everybody on the planet, the programming is oftentimes rooted in lack and limitation, poverty consciousness. So this is where the magic starts to happen. I mean, a gratitude practice, we've all heard of gratitude, but I can tell you it's a game changer when you start living in the space of gratitude every day. You start focusing on what is working, what can I be grateful for? You start to notice all the prosperity in your life, because truly, I mean, if you're even jumping on this video call, if you woke up this morning, you were born rich. So you have truly, like, there's so much to be grateful for. So I think that that would be a really great third actionable step, because most people wake up and they're focused on, what's not working, and they're focused on their bills, and they're focused on, again, this is the lack of order. They start focusing on the negativity of the news, or, you know, something that their mind has been stuck on. So if you just start your day by focusing on what you can be grateful for, that's also going to be a great actionable step that's going to move them in the 6 months. I mean, there is no causes other than your own state of consciousness. Ahmed, you've heard me say this many, many times.
mhm.
So consciousness is just your awareness. You're aware of all the things you don't want. You're aware of what's not working. You're aware of past failures, and whatever it is, you're aware. Now you have to become more aware of all the things that are working. What's your wins? What are you grateful for? And whatever you focus on, by law, right? That's Wallace in The Science of Getting Rich. The more grateful you are, the more you are drawn to source supply, the more you will have to be grateful for. So we want to focus our mind on gratitude and wins.
Yeah, and here we have to be honest with ourselves. First of all, look for what, as you said, I totally agree with you. Just look what you really want. Most of us are just frustrated because they don't never, maybe they don't ask themselves what do they really want. And that's why they are doing this and distracted with lots of the daily stuff. So they are not aware of what they are doing, the processes, what that's why it's so necessary and important to just be aware of the ideas and the thoughts that are getting to you. Just start accepting and rejecting. And there's where discipline starts, is once you start accepting all the ideas that are aligned with what you really want and rejecting any idea it's not aligned, that's not aligned with your goal.
Yeah, exactly. And I get it, because there's going to be friends that are going to be listening to this and are going to be like, yeah, but where's the money going to come from? I'm in debt, or in a crappy relationship, or maybe there's some health things going on.
Mhm.
And I get that's very real, because I mean, Ahmed and I have both been in that space.
Yes.
And this is where, that's why we call the paradigm the devil.
Yes.
And by the way, I want to remind all of our listeners that it's through the darkness that we get to the light. Life isn't being done to you, but it's actually happening for you and through you. And when you understand that lack, um, poverty, all of it, it's a disease of the mind. So you've got to remember. I think it's a remembering process more than it is a becoming process of who you are, what you're made of, and that really you're a creator. And I don't care what you call it. Like, I just call that spirit or God. You could call it Allah or Krishna, whatever, universal consciousness, but that our creator really wants us to thrive and that we were born to succeed. We were born to thrive. We were born to be happy and healthy. I think sometimes it's good like to take an inventory of like, what was it like growing up? How successful were my parents? What kind of self-image did they have? What was kind of the thinking and the conversations? And I don't know about you, but the conversations, I grew up very poor. I also grew up in an alcoholic home life. So the conversations were very negative, very much rooted in victim consciousness. There's never enough. A lot of negative coping, which obviously did not work for my parents. And we've got to take a look at that. And then we've got to go, okay, well, I have the ability to create something else. Someone might be responsible for programming you, but ultimately you are responsible for programming yourself. And I think this might be the very first action step for anybody listening, because it was the very first action step for me was recognizing like, yeah, these are the cards that were dealt to me. I mean, this was the family I grew up in, but I was stuck in the victim consciousness, and it was taking 100% responsibility, extreme ownership, and saying, these are maybe the cards, but I get to decide how I'm going to play them. And that responsibility piece, I think, is a very important piece that most people, it takes a very long time. But you know what? When you're I just call it a hell realm, or just things are not working out, well, your parents did the best they could. And yes, we've got genetic, we've got cultural paradigms, we've got all sorts of different
That's
paradigms, family paradigms, but it's that place of like, this is my life. I take responsibility. That's an empowering place, because no longer are you a plaything. Now, maybe you recognize that you're the one that's going to shift this programming. And I think if you have kids, that was really big for me, Ahmed.
yes.
That's when I started studying with Tony Robbins and Robin Sharma. It was like, man, if I don't do something, look at the legacy I'm leaving these kids. It's not going to be so good. And so I think like that is oftentimes the very first place that we have to start, because if you're not happy with your life, change it. You got to change it.
That's why everyone have challenges in his life. This is life. It's something that normally you should have challenges on the personal, even professional level. It's normal. But the thing is, just think in a way, what action steps that you should take, and don't delay that, because I was listening to a podcast that the stress comes from not taking an action where in a certain situation that you can take an action in. That's stress. So let's be very honest about life and responsible about our life and take serious actions toward those challenges and move those challenges into opportunities. Look into opportunities, and that's your attitude towards
Yeah,
life.
and we're kind of giving like a formula here, like even the action, like first action, take responsibility for your life, right?
Mhm.
Second action, well, if you're not happy with your life, what do you want to create instead? What would you love to create in the next 6 months? This
Mhm.
is where you get to strengthen and exercise, your imagination. This is where all the order is going to come in when you start doing this. Then, of course, start living in that space of gratitude, what's working. Because again, whatever you focus on, it's going to grow. And then the action is so essential, because the action causes the law of attraction. Now, many people on the planet know what the law of attraction is, but what they don't understand, it's not about you being perfect and taking perfect action. It's just about you doing something. So if you're
Exactly.
not happy with your life, like you jump on this call even with us and you hear something that you got to do, if you don't do it, that's how strong your paradigm is. It's just taking you sideways. And it actually is a notch against you. It's a notch against your self-confidence. It's a notch against your self-esteem. And it's not about, again, being perfect. You just got to do something. Like even, right now, just write out, like, I am 100% responsibility from this point on. I'm taking extreme ownership of my life. I am the one that is going to change these patterns, you know, for future generations, whatever you got. I do believe in getting a pen to paper. I really believe in like written agreements. I think that that's important, but you've got to take action. It's the action that causes the reaction. And oftentimes this is where most people, again, won't take action because it's not maybe the right kind of action. It's okay, because the more you take action, it actually causes people and situations to be attracted to you. And oftentimes, this is expect miracles when you're working with the laws of the mind and really start to understand this, is that oftentimes, what you really desire is actually going to be delivered to you. Like the universe is just going to say, here you go. And it's going to be delivered through people and situations. It might just be someone who, says, hey, this is what happened to me. Even as I started studying this material, I had a client of mine, she's known as the Pink Billionaire. And she said to me, Tara, let's write a book on leadership. Let's ignite leadership. And I remember for years when I was living in the Cayman Islands, I had many little kind of like sad, books written, but I never did anything. And even though this wasn't my bigger goal, it was interesting. It was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
She came to me and then she organized everything, and that became internationally best-selling. And I think
Nice.
since then, she's created a massive platform. I was part of writing 2 books with her platform. But it was just that I was just taking some sort of action every day. So expect miracles, because the most incredible people will be drawn to you. Why? Because the primary law is the law of vibration. Law of attraction is a secondary law. Everything vibrates. So this is where it's so important that you start understanding this. But I mean, you have a vibration. You live on a frequency. When you start focusing on, again, gratitude and what you're grateful for, your frequency, your vibration raises. You can only draw things that are at that vibration. And this isn't woo-woo or theory. This is science, right? It literally, when you're focused on gratitude, what's working, you move the cells in your body to a positive pole. And what that does is it attracts other things at that pole. When you're sitting there ruminating on what's not working, and maybe you're like an older version of me that was like, yeah, I mean, God must not love me as much. I mean, I've
Um,
been born in this crazy family, and addiction. I mean, there was lots of stuff, poverty. I mean, that's what I was focused on. So guess what? My cells were in a negative pole, and
mhm.
I could only attract negative. So I say some people, because we're all magnets, that's why we got to pay attention. What are you magnetizing to yourself? It's going to tell you what you're focused on most of the time.
That's why some of what the people I'm meeting, that I'm talking with them, and they said that those are my results. But once I tell them that the results is coming from your programming, so your belief system. So the thing wherever you should start is, first, as you said, be responsible about your life. Number 2, you have to take that decision that I want to go out from my comfort zone and start doing and changing those belief systems. Because it's as soon as you start repeating those, upgrading your belief system, everything gradually starts to change, and it will not happen overnight. At the beginning of my journey, I thought it will happen overnight, but it not. Still, till every 90 days, I feel that I want something higher. I want something bigger. I want to do something different. I want to do it in a better way. So it's not something that it's not a destination. It's a journey. Yeah, that's why you have to enjoy every point you stop at and enjoy the wins that you have done. Uh,
Yeah, I like that. And I've been just diving in. As you know, I just returned from Costa Rica, and then we dove into a couple events, and I'm with Bob's son, Brian, there at one of his event. I love something he said yesterday, really struck a chord with me. It's like, am I living the life that I love? Am I really living a life that I love? Because you're trading your life for something. And I think it's important to even just, ask ourselves this. I mean, an older version of me, I think, sometimes we get into this routine of just, waking up, maybe going to a job you hate. By the way, statistically in North America, 75% of people wake up every day going to a job they hate, and at the same time praying they don't get fired. And we wonder why, there's so many health challenges and mental health and addiction. By the way, any form of addiction, and I don't care if it's shopping, gambling, sugar, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, it's the way we cope. Coping means to cover up. And so, what are you trading your life for? Are you living the life that you love? And I think that the other part of this, when you start living in gratitude, like you said, the laws aren't instant. And thank goodness they're not instant, because how many of us get a negative thought? I mean, I'm a parent, and, every so often it's like, oh, I hope, my son just got his driver's license. And he's also a race car driver. So he's been racing go-karts for years. And
Okay.
it's like, that's that natural spleen energy of a mother, right? Oh, be careful. I hope he doesn't get in an accident. Well, thank God that thought doesn't instantly cause him to get in an accident. Now it's the repetition, right? Repetition is really the mother of all learning, and that's how our results are formed. And it's what we impress on the subconscious mind, just to do a little fast track of that. But thank God the laws aren't instant. So, yes, expect a holy instant. I expect holy instant. It's that expectation mindset. Live with the expectation of what you desire as though it's already here. And that's the trick. You have to, regardless of what's going on outside of you, regardless of past failures. And we don't want to live in the past, and the future is too far ahead. It's that moment of living in the present. Because when we live in that moment, we are able to love our life, right? And make, like you said, decisions, which means to cut off from all excuses, procrastination, alibis. We're able to live in that space and make decisions so that we are creating the life that we love. And I think that this is really important to reflect on, because that's such a high stat, and it really makes you think. It's like 75% of people go to work and they hate their jobs. And at the same time, they're praying that they don't get fired. Like, are you doing what you love? Are you, are you thriving in your life? Are you growing? Because if we're not growing, we're going backwards and we're slowly dying. And this is something that I reflect on all the time, because I also have I'm really big into like longevity and getting younger. And I really believe that, our results are just coming from our thinking, and they're coming from our mind. And if there's something in your life that you're not happy with, you don't like, again, change it. And it really does. It starts with it starts with working with your mind in a certain way. And it's the daily repetition. It's kind of like, if you want to have six-pack abs, you can't just go to the gym once a week and say, oh, I'm going to have six-pack abs. Again, it's a repetition. It's like putting in a little bit every day. I personally believe, Ahmed, that if you're listening to this, podcast, or if you're connected to Ahmed in any way, if you are not studying yourself every day for at least an hour, um, you're going in the wrong direction. You really need to see that, first of all, that you're worth it, and you need to start studying. I think that getting specialized knowledge and starting to study your mind is absolutely essential. I know for me it was, because I mean, I had training in psychology and I still didn't really understand how the mind was working. It was like, well, why am I getting these results? Why am I not moving towards the life that I want? And it's just that the paradigm was so strong. I was raised, get a good job, be happy with the job, and you just become a laborer. I mean, that's what school was created in the industrial age, to make good little workers. It wasn't created to make you an entrepreneur or to make you successful.
That's the very important thing that you talk about, is the self-discovery and looking for your passion. And really the best investment is just in yourself, because the time is passing in any way, and you're spending money here and there, vacations and everything. I don't say that don't spend on vacations, no, and go enjoy your life, but think in yourself. Just invest in yourself. And believe me, the best return on investment is just investing in yourself. Keep a small portion in this summer. Don't take the full summer vacation. Just this, what, once you talk about the 1 hour study every day, I'm doing that like from almost 6 months. you can't imagine. Once at the beginning, you told me you need a telescope to look what happened in the beginning of the year. I was saying nothing changing, nothing changing. Just the first 2 months, 3 months, and suddenly, exponentially, everything starts to change. Everything.
Mhm.
That's the necessity of
It's a game
repetition.
changer. I
Yeah.
think that, like, I want to speak to that because I think a lot of people can relate. Like the older version of me was just looking
Yes.
for a shiny gold everywhere. It was like,
Yes.
I was on information overload. And I think especially right now where information is so accessible, right? Through all these media platforms, and there's
Mhm.
always free, workshops and this or that, is like, oftentimes it's the knowing that's getting in the way, and you have to close a gap. But when you start to understand the way the mind works, you really want to stick with one thing till it's in your subconscious, and until you're actually moving on that. So whatever that looks like, I really believe that it does start with the mind. So we want to start focusing on the mind. Even for some of you, it might be just recognizing that you're constantly ruminating on the past and on focusing on what you don't want. Well, that's where, again, writing out your goal every day, writing out, what's your life going to look like in the next 6 months, focusing on gratitude. I mean, that's going to make a massive shift. If you're in a position where, the paradigm's so strong and you're not even able to even think about. I remember I was in that place at one time of working with someone or spending money there. I mean, it's all self-image and self-worth. But it's like, just find something. It might be a book. I remember for me, I think one of those first books for me was like this Celtine Prophecies. Like I remember just some of the like earlier books. And it's like, continue, like, read it through repetition, go over the ideas until you recognize that it's in there and you deeply deeply understand, but most importantly that you're taking action on the ideas. And what I think I loved about that particular book, that was in my early or later teens. I think it was just after my mom had passed and I took custody of my family, and it was just exploring energy. And I remember I'd never thought of anything like that. My background was all in sciences. It was all like, physical therapy. I was supposed to become a nurse. But I'd never looked at things like frequency and energy. And I remember being like, wow. And so just be mindful of the like shiny coin syndrome and hopping from this thing to this thing to this thing. I think that what's happening, and this has been going on for a long time, is that we're on information overload. And that's where all the overwhelm, I think that's where a lot of even the mental health thing, and especially because media is so available, this is also where we're stuck in a competitive mode versus creative. This is where we're constantly comparing ourselves and trying to keep up to the Jones, and beating up on ourselves or judging others. Like, you got to get over to the creative plane. And this is where you just, I mean, I always say mind my own business. And I'm really good with
Yeah,
this with
that's
media.
where creativity comes from, the knowledge, from studying.
It does.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
you'll be in the ignorance. And
Yeah.
if anyone just listen to our podcast, you say, "Oh, I know that." Okay, so no, why you're not getting those results? That's why I want from your perspective the necessity of a mentor and why we need always great mentors. So how could you elaborate on
Yeah.
that?
And I just want to comment. I remember when I jumped on with Bob Proctor, I remember being like, I had so much training in leadership with Robin Sharma and Tony Robbins. And I remember being like, I know that. But I remember Bob saying, well, you don't know about a thing till it actually shows up in your life. And so obviously I didn't know. I was just stuck in the knowing, but I didn't know because my results were absolutely crappy. And I'm still growing and learning. I have so much to learn. So that's one thing I've learned, Ahmed, is to just always be a student. And yes, I mean, we teach leadership, and I think like it's so important to find somebody who you're in resonance with, someone who you have good chemistry with. And you'll know, like, I think spirit's always working through us and it's talking to you. It's kind
Mhm.
of like when I got on that call with Bob, I was like, I had spent a lot of at that time, I had already made big decisions. I'd spent lots of money. I recognized the value of mentorship. But I was also, and I think that happens to some people that even come into this realm of like self-improvement, betterment. And I was like, I don't need like another mentor. I don't need to put any more money. And I was really, because it was big paradigm shifts to even put any money in self-development at all. And I remember leaving that conversation, and I remember how like spirit was nudging me in a big way. It was like, and I remember Bob said, it's not working your way. I can show you a way that works every time. And there was just something inside of him that I was like, I know he knows what he's talking about. And spirit was nudging me so strong. And I remember even in that moment being like, yep, I know I've got to do this. And so I think it's so important to pay attention. I believe that our creator is always supporting us. You know, in Course in Miracles, there's a quote that says, I've only sent you angels. I pay attention. Who is coming into my environment? Because I think that whether we're aware of it or not, we are praying, or sometimes we're begging. And it's like, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher will always appear, but it's whether you're going to be open enough to receive that. And that's one thing that I do now. And that's one thing that I don't go back to that thinking at all. That call with Bob, I'm always like so excited to grow and be in growth mindset and to just study with incredible leaders and mentors, knowing that there's just so much that I have to learn. And that every year, I really believe that no matter what you're making, you should always be putting a portion of that into your growth, into your self-development, into taking great care of you. And you might be like me. I mean, I grew up where it was complete survival mode. I never even heard the word, growth mindset or self-development or success. I don't even think those words were ever talked about in my family. It was like just scraping enough money to get groceries together or to go buy, unfortunately, alcohol, things like that. And I think it's so important that you do put a little bit aside, that you see that you're worth it, because we're either, like I said, we're growing and we're moving forward, or we're stuck and we're going backwards. And I think many people are feeling stuck. And by the way, it's your birthright to experience health, wealth, and happiness. If you are not experiencing that, you are working against the law. You have forgotten who you are, and you bought into, like you're saying, some pretty like nasty beliefs and that are rooted in lack and poverty and disease. But by law, you're meant to thrive.
We are here to grow. That's why God created us to create in this world. Just be creative. And the only way is just learning, studying. And I'm not saying just keeping all the whole day studying. At least you need 1 hour. And
Yeah.
the remaining of the day, you have to be doing and improving. And that's the success. It's not the secret, as you said. It's just being in harmony with the laws.
Yeah, I remember when I studied with Robin Sharma, he is the 5 a.m. club, which I've recently made the 4:30. That's a paradigm shift for me. But it was like, that power hour, that 1 hour just for you to really develop yourself, to focus on your goal, to focus on gratitudes, to focus on what are the action steps I need to take today. That's the order that, we opened up this session with, because there truly are no causes outside of you. Everything is coming from within. So the more order you have, the more successful you will be. So when you look at people that are really successful and prosperous, well, they've got a lot of order within there. And it's not that it's easier for them. It's actually, initially it was just as hard. They have to put in the work all the time. And actually, I think personally, the more successful you become, the bigger your goals are, the more work you have. So, Bob teaches that in one of the Lead the Field lessons, like, you think the grass is greener on the other side. Well, it's probably just getting better care. If you want to get better results in your life, you got to start taking care of your mind, especially at a time where, especially after the last 3 years, you take a look at what's going on the planet. I mean, mental health, addiction, homelessness. I mean, it's multiplying. I mean, it's like anywhere where you're not doing your work, you're going to see it. So the work is to do your work and all of your work. And I think that this is why we have such a, I think that's really the real pandemic right now. And I think it was beforehand. I just think that we, again, the paradigm's so strong, it distracts us from what's really going on. We've got to get our minds right. And that includes many things, not just studying yourself, but I mean, most of the food we eat isn't even real food now. I mean, this is where we got to grow garden, eat healthy food, move our body, get sunshine in our eyes. Like I'm a biohacker, Ahmed. So
Yeah.
I think it's just about really
It's like
taking
a
care.
chain. Once you start, it's a mindset. Once you start changing one thing, everything will gradually start change. Whatever you're eating, whatever you're exercising, you're moving, your activities. So all that processes will start to change because you have the right mindset. It's not the fixed mindset. I'm not doing, and I'm not in that comfort zone. I'm moving out. So I
Yeah.
think you cannot change everything overnight. And that's why most of us are just feeling that feeling down because they want to change everything at the same time.
Yeah. That's where
That's
you're setting yourself up to fail.
100%.
Yeah, and I recognize that. I know I was one of those people, especially if you got a lot of type A or you're a go, go, go. It's like,
Yes,
I'm gonna change this and this and this.
it's
Well,
impossible.
you're so sneaky, right? That's what it's doing because that's a pattern of self-sabotage. And I recognize that even in my parents. Again, we're all a product of a product. It's you just think, I always think like I love the quote, like Rome wasn't built in a day. You got to like chip away at it every day. But if you're not getting the results that you want, well, you got to take a look at what's going on in the inside. Who are you spending time with? Do you have a mentor? Do you have good people around you that can hold you accountable, that are honest with you? I think oftentimes the paradigm's so sneaky. We surround ourselves with people that we're feeling like almost superior to, and that's not good. I mean, if you're the smartest person in the room, get the friggin' heck out of that room. I
100%.
mean, we want to love everybody, but we've got to start taking an honest look at our lives.
Really, really, it's amazing conversation. It's a really amazing podcast. How would you like to close? What a message you would send to the audience so we can tell them to move for the next 6 months to make it the great best ever 6 months in their life?
Yeah, I would say that I would just make a decision, just calm and quiet your mind and just ask yourself, I think that when you get clear on what it is you do want to create, you're more than aware of what you don't want. Make a decision. What's going to help you move to that point quickest and fastest? And I can just tell you that, first of all, if I can do it, you can do it. I think that everybody, everybody is here to succeed and to live a glorious life. And the only problem and the only solution is going to be you. So unfortunately, like Ahmed and I can't do the work for you. We can guide you and give you support, but ultimately you got to be that one to make the decision and say, okay, and I would just start, and you got to get your mind calm and quiet. I think again, with all these phones and media, we're really distracted, so we're not listening. And we've got to slow down and quiet things enough that we listen to those nudges. Like, what is that one big thing that you got to do and you're not doing it? And then most importantly, do it. If you don't do it, your paradigm takes you sideways.
Do it now.
You'll be in the
Let's
same place next year.
yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
even just look for your passion. Look what you really want. And
Yeah, I mean, I always think, what do you love to do? Like, I mean, just start exploring, even start writing a list of what are you good at and what do you love to do?
yeah, and start wherever you are with whatever you have. Just do it now. Take a decision and be committed. Thank you, Tara, for your time. It was an amazing episode. And thank you again. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Ahmed.